Is everybody ready? This is the Subcommittee on Public Safety of the Committee of Appropriations. We're looking at the 14 amended budget, and I'm going to go through some of the changes that we've made to the governor's recommendation, and there are a couple of small changes that have been made since the committee met last Thursday, and I'm going to go over those with the committee. And we're going to go through fairly quick. And so anyway, on 5.1, which is Court of Appeals, there were two requests from the Court of Appeals. One was for a documents clerk position, and one was for two attorney positions. The recommendation of the committee is that those be considered in fiscal year 15 budget, but not in the mid-year adjusted budget. So that is going to be zeroed out. In Section 6 on Judicial Council, in 6.1.1 on accountability courts, there was a request for a certification program officer position. We will consider that for the fiscal year 15, but not for the mid-year adjusted budget, so that one is also zeroed out. In 6.5.2 and 6.5.3, there were a request in the Judicial Council for an executive director position for the Council of Probate Court Judges, and for another position for misdemeanor probation provider oversight, and we are going to consider those both in the fiscal year 15, but not in the mid-year adjusted budget. In 8.2.1, there was a request by the district attorneys for $345,639 for increased travel and training, and that request was withdrawn in hearing, and so that is that request has been acknowledged by the committee, and so that will be zero. In 8.3.1, there was a request for an adjustment for risk premiums of $96,843, and the committee was in agreement with that request. So that is included. In 9.1.1 and 9.1.2 in the Council of Superior Court Judges, there was a request for an adjustment in the employer share of the state health benefit plan, and a request for an increased funds for operating expenses. The first one was denied by the committee. The second one will be considered for fiscal year 15, but not in the adjusted budget. 9.2.1 in judicial administration districts, there was a request for funds to reflect an adjustment in the employer share of the state health benefit plan. That was denied by the committee. And 9.2.2 was funds for personal services eliminated in previous budget reductions. That was approved of $18,051. And then there was a request in 9.2.3 for increased funds for operating expenses. That will be considered in the 15, but not in the mid-year adjusted. 9.3.1, there was a request for increased funds for the employer share of the state health benefit plan for Superior Court judges. That request was denied. 9.3.2, increased funds for personal services eliminated in previous budget reductions. That was approved by the committee. And then 9.3.3 was a one-time adjustment of $60,500 downward, and that was approved by the committee as well. 10.1.1, there was a request from the Supreme Court for $22,840 for document destruction, and the committee approved $12,000 of that request. In Section 18, Department of Corrections, I'll take a few minutes on this. Governor Deal, as all of you know, proposed over the last 3 years some changes in our criminal justice system. The first year were the accountability courts and some changes in punishment for felony convictions. The second year was juvenile court and juvenile adjustments and corrections. And then this year is going to be reentry for felony offenders. back into the community. As we're starting to see some results from the first year's enactment that we passed in the House and the Senate, and which were signed by the governor, dealing with accountability courts and substance abuse, mental health courts, those kinds of things. And at the time that we did that, the budget for the jail subsidy was $9 million. That was an amount that the state paid if it did not pick up state offenders and put them into the Department of Corrections on a timely basis. And what was happening were the prisons were full and the overflow was being kept in county jails, and we budgeted $9 million to reimburse the counties for this service. But it actually was costing about $25 million, even though we'd only budgeted $9, just because there was that much of a jail backlog. This year, not only are we not going to increase the $9 million that we would have increased by $16 million 2 years ago, we're actually reducing it $5 million to $4 million, and don't anticipate we will spend that. And that is because the prisons are not overcrowded. There are not backlogs in the county jails. So that is a very real benefit of the criminal justice reform that has been proposed by Governor Deal. But another benefit of that is that we have historically paid counties $22 a day for keeping those prisoners in the county jail. And one thing we did not discuss in committee, but you are being asked to approve if you approve this budget, is that now well, let me back up. It costs the state somewhere between $43 and $50 a day to keep a prisoner in prison. We have been paying the counties $22 a day forever because of the fact we just couldn't afford to pay anymore, but it did not reflect the true cost of keeping those prisoners. Because we now do not have a backlog in the jails, and we are not anticipating that we will spend the $4 million that we're budgeting, the committee is being asked to increase from $22 to $43 a day the reimbursement rate to the counties so that it actually reflects the true cost of keeping those prisoners. And we do not anticipate, even at that rate, that we will spend the $4 million that we have allocated in the budget for county jail reimbursement. So the rest of the changes in the Department of Corrections budget are as a result of that reduction of the $5 million from the jail subsidy, and so we are reallocating that money to some of the other programs where they have been running deficits. In 19.1.1, there was a request by the Department of Defense for a legal counsel position, and the committee eliminated that position and did not fund that request. There was also a request for $591,250 for an increase of the state's share of the Youth Challenge budget, and the committee has decided to approve that request. I will point out to the committee in 30.1.2, this is something that there are no changes in what the committee has done, but there are some ads that have been put in since the committee last met, and this is one of them. In 30.1.2, there is a 3% rate adjustment among all out-of-home care providers, and this is in juvenile justice. It's an amount of $136,050, and the reason that is being put in there is it was called to the attention of the Appropriations Chairman after we met that DHS pays providers a rate that is higher than what the Department of Juvenile Justice does, and this is to equalize those two rates. And so that 136,050 will make that adjustment, and you're being asked to approve that, since we have not previously discussed it. $38.8.1, This is also something new. The governor is proposing in the 15 budget an increased amount for driver education programs pursuant to Joshua's law, and this is $30,000 put into the supplemental budget to provide for planning so that when that goes into effect, if the 15 budget is approved, that there will already be planning money available in this year's budget. And so that's something that we have not discussed and you will be asked to approve. In 38.9.1, there was the governor's budget had requested a reduction of $150,000. We felt like that was not appropriate in the mid-year budget, and so we zeroed that out and restored that cut. And so that is all of the things that we have had hearings on and have discussed, and some new things that we have not discussed that I'm bringing to the committee's attention. What is the pleasure of the committee? All right, there's a move to pass. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there is a second. Is there discussion? Are there questions? I'll call the question. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? And it's unanimous. We are adjourned.